This is a review of FZROX, Fidelity's Zero Total Market Index Fund. This is a zero fee fund from Fidelity. They came out with it in August of 2018, so it is less than a year old at this moment. We're taking a look at its basic structure, less than its performance, as it is a total market index and also has very little individual history. So maybe we'll have to take a look again sometime later this year or next year to see if there's more information to provide. In any case, Fidelity came out with several zero-fee funds last year, one to the international market, one that is the S&P 500. This is their total market index. Of course, Fidelity already had many total market indexes, funds, ETFs. They have no zero fee ETF yet and probably will not introduce one anytime soon, but this is probably the most popular of their new mutual fund products, and let's take a look at what's under the hood. So these are the basic fund details from Fidelity's website for FZROX. As you can see, the fund was initiated in August of last year, August 2nd, and has no expense ratio, zero fee. It also has no transaction costs and no minimum to invest. And I do want to mention here that to invest in this mutual fund, you must have a Fidelity account. This is not a bring with you mutual fund available at every brokerage house or that you can transfer. You must have a Fidelity brokerage in order to buy this or any of the zero fee products that they recently released, but that isn't much of an impediment given that Fidelity is already one of the larger brokerage firms, and also it is pretty easy to open up an account. Perhaps that is a good enough reason to not consider this, though, if you're solely at Vanguard or some other brokerage where this wouldn't be available and you're already in an ultra low fee. The mere annoyance of transferring could be a reason to stay. In any case, as you can see, over $3 billion in assets under management in under a year. This is an incredibly successful mutual fund. I suspect that by the end of this year, there'll be well over $5 billion in it, probably well over 6, maybe even as much as 10 billion. So let's take a look at FZROX's holdings. Here is a list of holdings by sector. This breakdown is going to be substantially similar to the S&P 500, give or take 1% basically. And so that means about half, a little less than half of the portfolio is in 3 sectors, that being IT, healthcare, and financials. This is a fairly aggressive portfolio, but that's what the market is. And basically that's what you're getting with FZROX is a total market fund. So yeah, this is very similar to holding the S&P 500, a little broader. And here's a look at the top 10 holdings of FZROX. You might notice that Google is on there twice, so if we were to combine the A and C class shares of Google into one, it would move it up into a top 5 holding, and then we would add Visa to this list. So these companies would be the exact same top holdings of the S&P 500 or pretty much any other total market fund you're likely to find, largely because they're all market cap weighted these days. Now, while the top holdings might be exactly the same as, say, Vanguard's total market index fund or the iShares Core US Total Market Fund, that's ITOT and VTI, those funds have about 1,000 more companies. Largely, those are micro cap, small cap, and some mid cap stocks. This fund is primarily invested in companies over $10 billion, but that is the vast majority of, well, the market, especially on a market-weighted index, where we have near or over trillion-dollar companies. So FZROX does have just over 2,500 companies in the index, so it is considerably more diverse than the S&P 500, or at least broader, but not nearly as broad as many traditional total market options that do have around 3,500 companies within them. So will this difference be material over the long run? We don't really know yet, and would that be positive or negative to returns and volatility? It will probably reduce some volatility, but it might also reduce returns as a result. The exact extent of these things we'll find out over time. But this is a chart of FZROX since its inception, essentially, and what we can see is that it is very similar to the market itself. And it has done very well in 2019, but it looks like it's beginning to roll over. I don't think that's a fault to FZROX. That's the market. The total market, the S&P 500 and FZROX with it, are right now rolling over and appear to be at a point that was prior resistance and support. And given the weakness in the market, it would not be surprising if both FZROX and the S&P 500 and other passive indexes continue this recent move down. And as you can see, I put some lines on this chart here where we are and where there's the possibility to drop down to. This could mean another, let's call it 5% decline from here down to that lower black line. Again, this is not investment advice. This is just looking at the chart and seeing where there was prior resistance and support and seeing what's going on now. And again, this has nothing really to do with FZROX, but if you were to overlap on top of this chart the S&P 500, it would be nearly identical. So this is just what's happening in the market. Okay, so that's a first look at FZROX, Fidelity's Zero Total Market Index fund, a mutual fund. I think it's a pretty good fund. I love no fees, no transaction costs, and Fidelity is a pretty good broker. So all in all, not too shabby. It'll be great to see how it performs over the longer haul. We just don't have much information on that yet. But a very interesting fund that I believe will become a highly competitive total market option for passive investors over the next several quarters. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them below. And if there are any other ETFs or mutual funds that you would like to be discussed, please let me know. Thank you and have a great day.